Good morning and welcome to KidNuz. I'm Tori. Today is Friday, April 2nd, 2021. And we begin with the internet howling over the new TV show, Pooch Perfect. As the name implies, it's a competition that pits dog groomers against each other as they race to give their furry friends radical makeovers. This week's debut featured a white pup that morphed into a skunk and a poodle dyed an eye-popping pink. The fur flew for some viewers. Among the posts, "The longer I watch this show, the worse I feel," and "How did ABC ever greenlight this?" The animal rights group PETA also weighed in, saying pups shouldn't be leashed to a countertop and painted and prodded for hours on end. There's been no response from ABC, but host Rebel Wilson says everyone involved in the production is an animal lover. She is from a long line of dog handlers, and the animals get the star treatment before, during, and after their appearance. You've heard of High School Musical, but what about High School Macy's? Students at downtown Burlington High in Vermont sure have. They're now taking chemistry with Chanel, language arts with Levi's, and riding escalators instead of trudging upstairs. It's all because their new school happens to be an old store. A few months ago, dangerous chemicals closed their campus, and the empty local Macy's had just what desperate school officials needed: space. It took a couple $1 million to put up walls and add a library and cafeteria, but the ghost of Macy's remains. Giant advertising posters still hang, and students say the place gets pretty noisy with super high ceilings and tile floors. The unconventional classroom went viral after a student captioned a TikTok video, "I'm literally going to school in a Macy's. What is happening?" As you know, opening day for baseball was yesterday, but for two teams, COVID got in the way. Just hours before first pitch, the league postponed the matchup between the Washington Nationals and the New York Mets. One of the Nationals players had tested positive, and 4 others had been in his contact tracing orbit. 28 other teams did manage to kick off the season, and all with at least some fans in the stands. But rules for getting a seat vary wildly. While each stadium requires masks and social distancing, some teams, like the New York Yankees and San Francisco Giants, are also demanding to see proof of a vaccine or a negative test taken within 72 hours of game time. A soundtrack of spring is about to drop on the East Coast in a grand and kind of gross way. Insects known as cicadas that have been underground for 17 years soon will be out, about, and very noisy. And we're not talking about a few hundred. Trillions of a specific variety known as Brood X will work their way to the surface when the soil is warm enough, probably by late April or early May. There will be no mistaking their arrival. Cicadas make a very loud buzzing sound, comparable to the noise made by a lawnmower, and will show up from northern Georgia to New York, west to the Mississippi River, and in the Midwest. They don't bite or sting and will fade out by late June or July. The Brood X bunch won't be back until 2038. In other KidNuz notes, Ingenuity just stretched its legs. The little chopper's been folded up and tucked underneath the Perseverance rover since it arrived on Mars. It took the better part of a week, but its 4 legs are now finally unfurled and hovering just above the surface of the red planet. The next step will be to lower it onto the airfield for its historic flight, which could take place as early as next Thursday. You've got to really like Avengers Endgame to watch it 191 times in 94 days. That's what Ramiro Alanis of Florida just did, and he's got a new Guinness record to prove it. The why isn't entirely clear, but the title for seeing the same movie over and over is his nonetheless. We're headed into a big weekend of college basketball. Tonight in the women's Final Four, South Carolina takes on Stanford and Arizona plays UConn. The winners face off on Sunday. The men take the court tomorrow, Houston versus Baylor and UCLA against Gonzaga. Their championship game is Monday. That's it for KidNuz. A big thank you to all our generous donors who make this daily podcast possible. If you'd like to make a donation that's tax-deductible through our fiscal sponsor, Independent Arts and Media, just go to our website, www.kidnuz.org. Now, our KidNuz quiz. What new show is in the doghouse with some animal rights activists? Pooch Perfect. High schoolers in Vermont are attending class where? In an old Macy's department store. Some baseball teams are telling fans to bring what to the ballpark? Proof of a vaccine or a negative COVID test. Which insects will soon create a buzzy symphony on the East Coast? Brood X cicadas, which come above ground every 17 years. In one for the road. Most people are pretty proud of their shot selfies, and when you get yours, you'll probably flex and post to social, just like your moms and dads did. The next step, though, is to protect the paper that proves you took the jab. More than a pandemic memento, the vaccination card will be your ticket to travel, go to concerts, maybe even to school. Office Depot and Staples are offering to laminate the cards for free. Staples promo ends this week, but Office Depots will run into the summer. But before we all line up to laminate, health experts are suggesting making a few copies. There's still no centralized U.S. database for who got the shots, which means losing that little piece of paper could be a major headache. Before we head out for the weekend, it's time to recognize our fabulous KidNuz teachers and the Rockstar students, starting with Ms. Hunt from Southmore Elementary in Denver, Colorado. To California for Ms. Morales at Cesar Chavez in Parlier, and a surprise shout-out for Mrs. Spagnola at Washington in Lodi, Mrs. L. at East Vincent in Spring City, Pennsylvania, and Mrs. Gilbert homeschooling in Melcher, Dallas, Iowa. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to take our Week in Review quiz, and we'll see you back here for more KidNuz Monday morning.